Hi there, I'm Cailen Ascher, and these are the Clarity Confessions. Every show, I sit down with top female entrepreneurs and get them to confess their best and most inspiring secrets for creating soulfully expansive success on their terms. If you're ready for a heaping dose of clarity, inspiration, and feel-good strategies to move you forward in life and business, get ready. It's time for our next confession. On today's show, I am so pleased to be bringing you my good friend, Racheal Cook. She is a green smoothie enthusiast, restorative yoga advocate, and an award-winning business strategist who believes entrepreneurs can grow their dream business while living their dream life right now. I have known Rach for a number of years. She is totally awesome, and I really can't believe I haven't had you on the show yet. So Rach, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Cailen. I can't believe, when I think about it, we've known each other for like 4 or 5 years now.
Yes, it's been a while, and we always manage to like circle back and find one another and touch base. So I'm so happy to be coming together today for this.
Absolutely.
So I always like to start out with the question, how and when did you get started on this entrepreneurial path that you're on?
This is a really interesting question because there's so many different layers to it. And for me, I mean, it could have started literally in the womb. I was raised by 2 entrepreneurial parents. So kind of the entrepreneurial mindset was implanted at birth, which is a definite bonus for me. Mm-hmm. But really, when I made the shift into entrepreneurship didn't happen until I was in college, in all honesty. I started as a music performance major, and when I was in the College of Music, I decided to start catering receptions for all my friends, because as a music major, you have to do a recital for your junior and senior year as part of your requirements to graduate with your performance degree. And so all my friends were having these recitals, their friends and family were coming in from out of town, and I was thinking to myself, I like to cook. I need to make some money. And so I started catering these receptions, and it just came really easily and naturally to me. I've always been someone who likes to be organized, and I'm also someone who likes to come up with interesting ways to make money for myself. So I had little things like that all through college, and that was but that particular little experiment with, catering for my friends' recitals was when it really hit me that maybe I've got talents beyond just playing the French horn and should explore them a little bit more. And I honestly couldn't see myself as a professional French horn player in an orchestra or something. So I switched to entrepreneurship and small business, and that's what I have my degree, and my master's degree is in entrepreneurship. And from there, I just started seeing that there was a lot I had to offer in that world, especially as a consultant, as a strategist, which is what I really went into the whole business world for. I seem to think in spreadsheets and checklists and all of the things that businesses really need in order to run extremely well. And I initially went into the world as a consultant, but got burned out from the traditional consulting career path. And because of that burnout, I realized I needed to take better care of myself, which led me to getting back on my yoga mat, which led me to my teacher, who handed me the name Yogipreneur for my first business, which is where I really married my business acumen and experience and education with my passion for this amazing yoga community. So that was in 2008 when I really took that official leap from working for someone else as a consultant, working for other organizations as a consultant, into working as a solo consultant on my own. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward, we're now 8 years later, and the Yogipreneur is still alive and well. It is now shifted from being a consultancy into being more of an online magazine and info product-based business for yoga business owners. But my main work is at Racheal Cook, where I've been doing consulting for women entrepreneurs who are really at the point where they're ready to live more while they're growing their business.
It's so fantastic, and it's so interesting hearing your story, and I won't obviously go into mine now, but I don't know if you know, but in high school, my first entrepreneurial venture was in the catering realm too. So that's just really funny that we both had that little shared
shared entrepreneurial venture in our past.
Yeah. And you know what? Everybody's got something. I find the more I talk to other entrepreneurs, we all have something like that where it was just like, sure, I'll do this for you. How much are you going to pay me for it?
Exactly. When all my other friends were working, minimum wage jobs, I was making $25-$30 an hour working these parties. So I thought it was pretty fabulous.
Exactly. Yes. And I mean, even I used to tutor, and this is because I'm a nerd and kind of a lifelong student. I was tutoring like economics and accounting and finance, and I got paid more per student. So I was tutoring for the entire, it was the baseball and the swimming and the tennis teams at my university, and you could get paid like $15 per student, but there was no limit to how many you could tutor at a time. So I was like, okay, guys, who's got econ? Come here. And I was getting paid like $100 an hour to tutor, sophomore and juniors in economics and stuff. So anytime I could figure out a way to make more money without working more, I was all over that.
Yeah, and now you get to teach other women how to do the same thing. That's awesome. So I'd love to start out with just a series of some rapid fire questions, kind of, break the ice a little bit, and then we'll move into more just conversation after that. So are you ready for the rapid fire round?
We'll see.
Okay. So when did you get clarity about your business, your current business that you're doing now?
I would say big clarity came for me in my most recent iteration of my business, really when I decided to separate my personal brand, Racheal Cook, from the Yogipreneur, was in about 2014. And what had happened was I was growing the Yogipreneur. I was growing this great audience. They were really loving what I was creating. My business was just going amazingly well. I was always just like shocked and amazed and grateful for how people were responding to it. But I remember I got to the point where suddenly I started hearing from people who were like, I'm not a yoga teacher, but I'm a health coach, I'm a life coach, I'm a copywriter, I'm a photographer, I'm a makeup artist, all these other service providers who were really resonating with how I was teaching business. And that's when I realized it was time for me to play a bigger game and go under my personal brand. So that would probably be the biggest moment of clarity for me in the most recent iteration of going off on my own and under my personal brand.
Awesome. So can you describe your business in 10 words or less?
Why, yes, I can. It might not be exactly 10 words, but right. We'll see. I would say under Racheal Cook, I really work with women entrepreneurs. And what I focus on with them is helping them to get more strategic and laser focused on how they can work smarter, not harder.
So important. And something that I'm finding more and more women are really, really craving these days. So that's an important mission to have.
Yeah. And I just find that so many women, we can't get to the lifestyle that we really want when we're just doing all the things. So learning how to kind of create that new balance of working less but earning more, working less but being able to live more. That's where everybody wants to be.
So why do you love your work?
So I love my work because I love hearing what my clients have been able to create in their own lives because of their business. I love getting those emails where they tell me, they were able to replace their husband's income, or they were able to go back and take care of their parents, or whatever their big dream is. And usually because they're women, it's usually around taking care of the people that they love the most, whether it's, creating another big income for their family or being able to relieve any financial burden that they might have been feeling. That just brings so much freedom. And that's what I love, is being able to help more women, especially, create the freedom that they just couldn't experience in the traditional 9-to-5 world.
And what personal practices or self-care do you make time for regularly?
Self-care that I make time for every day is trying to get out on a walk. Getting out on a walk I'm not the best person to hit the gym. I get on my yoga mat as much as I can, but there's something about just getting out of my house, because I work from my home office. But getting out of my house for a good hour in the morning and just getting a really good walk in, I get so much relaxation from it, but I also get my best ideas.
So what is the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
The best thing is the freedom that you can create for yourself. Absolutely. Being able to work from home, being able to get my kids off the bus, my husband was able to leave his job and come work for me, being able to take our family on vacation, being able to take his dad out for a big birthday celebration, or being able to throw a party for somebody. I love that.
So what is then the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur?
The hardest thing is the hardest thing, which is the hardest thing. It's just probably the mindset and the challenges that you have to face, not necessarily like the how you do the things as an entrepreneur, but just dealing with the challenges and the struggles that come up that are usually due to fear or doubt or lack of confidence or whatever it might be. It's a lot of mindset work that I don't think we think about when we go into entrepreneurship. But when you strengthen that, when you really build that muscle, when you build more confidence in yourself, everything becomes easier.
So last question here. What is one word that sums up your business mission?
Uncomplicate.
Oh, that's a good one. No one's ever said that before. I like that a lot.
That's why it's on my homepage. It's my favorite word. Because I think complicated is easy. It's easy to make things complicated. What's much more challenging is to say no and to simplify down to the essential things that need to happen or that you should focus on. So that's what I'm focused on.
I like that. That's an important mission to be on.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear from you. And I guess you can pick, from your menu of businesses. What did your first year in business look like?
So I'll focus on my first year in business where I was actually paying for my livelihood.
Yeah, that's a good place.
Businesses, I think, and I think a lot of people, especially people who are wired like us, who started things here and there through school or whatever. I mean, I never had to pay 100% of it through school. Thank goodness I was really blessed in that regard. But when I went off on my own and left the traditional consulting world and started my own business, it was probably the most challenging year of my life because, one, I was going through all sorts of crazy personal ups and downs. We were having some crazy stuff happening in my family. I lost my grandfather, who I was very close to that year. I was leaving the consulting world because I was so burned out. I was having extreme anxiety and panic attacks. In fact, I had 10 panic attacks in 10 weeks before I left my consulting career. And I actually took a medical leave of absence. I filed for disability and was receiving disability when I was deciding what I was going to do next. So I really found that first year was more about me than about the business. It was about me figuring out what I wanted. And I was really lucky in some regards because even though it was one of those moments where it felt like my world was kind of falling apart, my health was horrible. I was really stressed. I lost my grandfather. I wasn't sure what to do with my job. I felt like I had checked all the boxes that you were supposed to check, for an ambitious young woman, like MBA, getting married to a handsome hubby, got the 6-figure salary. And then it all fell apart within a few years. And I was just like, what is wrong with me? I felt horrible about myself. So that was the start of my business, was from pretty much the worst self-esteem place you could be. And I just shared that I think mindset is the hardest part about being an entrepreneur. It is, because you have to kind of get over that. And I have to say, I was really lucky my first year in business because I had such a great career before as far as income. I was making really great money getting paid by someone else to be a consultant. and I didn't have the time or energy to spend it or do anything with it. So we had a nice little savings cushion. My husband worked as a teacher, which isn't making much money, but I didn't need to live off of my business right away, is basically where I'm going with that. And I think that was a real relief in a lot of ways, because it gave me some time to really explore what I wanted to do with it and talk to people and not feel the burden of like trying to generate 6 figures out the gate, which I never had in mind anyway. I was just kind of like, I just don't even know what to do yet. So when I decided to create the Yogipreneur, I just started working with people, and it was I was okay with letting it evolve. I was okay with being very fluid with it. It wasn't until about 6 months in when I felt like, okay, I figured this out. I know what I want to do. I want to bring strategy to these people, to this industry. Then I found out I was pregnant with twins.
Surprise.
Surprise. So I don't recommend that part. I love my twins, but being pregnant and having a brand new, like a baby business and babies is very challenging. So that first year in business, it was pretty rocky. I'm not even going to lie. It was very challenging. I went through a lot of ups and downs, and in a lot of ways, I mean, the obstacle is the way you figure out how to get through it, and you get on the other side and you have so much more clarity and so many insights that you can share with people. Me having twins especially catapulted me into leveraging my business online. It got me out of trying to like actually go on site and work with people in person into finding ways that I could do it with more flexibility that I probably would have taken a lot longer to figure out. But it was challenging. That first year was pretty tough.
Yeah, I think the first year it kind of needs to be tough. It kind of fortifies you for the journey, and then it's all, hopefully it all gets sweeter from there. You know, like little micro steps at a time, it gets better and better. You mentioned a couple things that I'd love to hit on. You've obviously brought up mindset a couple times. Is there something that you turn to, a practice that you like, or any advice you can offer to other women who are maybe struggling with that piece right now?
Yeah, I would say honestly for me, because I'm just such a practical person, I'm not one to sit around and stew on something too long. I just want to take action on it. And I have found that for me, the whole mindset thing, whenever I'm doubting myself, the faster I can get into it, the more confident I get. Which sounds strange to a lot of people. I think a lot of people want to do like some journaling or something, which can be great, but it's what works for me, and what has always built my confidence has been in the doing, in the being a practitioner, in the getting out there and just putting stuff out there, talking to people, even if it feels scary. Mm-hmm. I think that's the muscle that you have to build the most, is just getting over that vulnerability, getting over that fear of being seen, get over the fear of rejection, and doing it. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's this idea that somehow if you get all the pieces in place, it's going to happen for you. No. And that's just not how it happens. It's because of the doing. It's because of the action. And when you get in the practice of that, it becomes that much easier. I had someone ask me recently, "Oh, how did you get in Business Insider?" It's like, I pitched them for a year. Exactly. I sent them emails every other month. Anytime anything good happened, that's how it happened. It wasn't that I waited around for anybody to find me. It's that I made myself available. And I think that's not the story that people necessarily want to hear, but it's the truth behind every successful woman that I've ever talked to.
Exactly. It's in the doing. And I think the more that we can get that message out there, not that I don't think women could figure that out, but it's just not what people are talking about. Like all we can see is the end result, right? Like go to our Instagram feeds and, yes. Our Pinterest boards, and all you see is this beautiful end result. And you're like, oh my gosh, she has all these followers or all these comments or all these things. But if you keep scrolling back and through their blogs or through whatever, that's when you really see the journey. That's when you see the oh, she showed up in their inbox every single week for years. That's when you go backwards and you see, okay, so maybe the video now is on this beautiful set and she's got hair and makeup done. But before, it was like her camera on her iMac sitting in her living room.
Yeah.
It's that journey, and it's just in the doing. And you don't have to have the end result right away. In fact, you're not going to have the end result right away. And that's one thing. Don't confuse investing in your business. Like, even if you have all the same equipment as the person you're admiring, that's not the same. You know, you still have to get out there and do the work and get through the beginning parts, get through those crappy first drafts. Yeah. We all have to do it.
Yeah. Someone recently said, I'm trying to think where I heard it. Oh, I think it was Todd Herman, the creator of the 90-Day Year. And he was talking about how there's phases to building a business. And so often we want to jump from like phase 1 startup to like phase 4 scaling up, scaling up and creating our online programs and writing our best-selling books and all that stuff. And there's all these beautiful phases that take you from one place to the next and prepare you for the next phase. And that there's nothing wrong with being in that startup phase when it's really tough and it feels like a struggle and things are unclear and it feels like a lot of work. It's just part of it, and it prepares you for that next evolution of your business and your life and all that growth that takes place. And I think it's really important to have honest conversations like we're having when we're sharing what that first year really looked like for you, because look at where you are now. But if you had let that first year get the best of you, this whole conversation we're having would never be taking place.
Exactly. And I think that is really, really important. Like you have to go in kind of order here. And I'm not saying some people can't leapfrog, because there are some people who race through those phases of business, and there are some people who take their time through all of them. And that it doesn't really matter your pace. The goal is that you just keep moving forward and you keep paying attention to what the most important thing in front of you is.
Exactly. Oh, that was great. I love that. So if you could offer just a single piece of advice to a woman that's listening right now and maybe is in that startup phase of her business, what would it be?
Sure. I would say my biggest piece of advice is to not make your business about you. And here's what I mean by that. Because I know that might sound really strange, because we're all in this world of personal brands and your passion, and this business is your expression in the world, but really your business is about the people you're here to serve. And what I have discovered is if you spend too much time focusing on just you and you skip over all those people that you're here to serve, you're going to really struggle to get those people to connect with what you're talking about, because they're not going to think it's relevant. They're not going to relate to it. So the more you can start listening to those people and finding those people, the easier everything becomes. The more you can talk to the people you want to serve, and not just, on social media. That's great, but get on Skype, have conversations with people, ask them what they're struggling with, ask them how you can help, listen to their words, because their words are your headlines. They're your subject lines. They're the things that you need to create. They're telling you what they want, if only you'll pay attention to the people.
That's great. I love that their words are your headlines. That's a powerful takeaway, because I think a lot of people dive inside their own heads when they're trying to create content or create a program or a package or something for their community. And they forget that the best place to go for that is to their community and to literally ask them, what can I make for you that would help you?
Yeah. When I talk to people who are amazing copywriters, because that's something I'm amazed by, and I'm always studying copywriting, they have all these swipe files, and I've started this practice of whenever I see something that my community is saying, like in my Facebook group or in a comment or whatever, I will actually screenshot it. I will highlight the phrase and I will screenshot it. And that becomes exactly the language that I use whenever I'm talking about the topic, because they've exactly told me what they need to hear in order for it to resonate, in order for it to really land for them. And that's so incredibly valuable. Like, you can try to come up with it all you want, but then you won't have a clear, concise, compelling message. You'll have a confusing one.
Yeah, that's it. When they're giving you what they want, I mean, that's the shortcut to everything. I mean, if we're talking about, going in order and taking your time, that's a little shortcut that can get you there a little faster. Yeah. So, just as we wrap up here, is there any last piece of advice or anything you'd like to challenge the audience with, some action that you'd love for them to take after listening to this conversation?
Ooh. Yeah, given what we just talked about, listening to your people, it doesn't really matter where you are in your business. This is such an excellent practice. I think we all as entrepreneurs need to listen more. And one thing that I challenge my clients with all the time is to schedule 10 calls with people who are potentially your ideal clients, who are struggling with the problem that you're here to solve, who are challenged by something that you can help them with. And not to get on the phone and pitch them, not to get on the phone and ask them to join your program. That's not the point. This is interviewing them and asking, hey, what is your biggest challenge with whatever it might be? So I just had somebody who actually took it to being, she's going to interview 100 people for this, asking women, especially mothers, what is your biggest struggle with self-care? What is the hardest part about making time for self-care? What is the biggest challenge you have making self-care a priority? And you have to make some time for these calls, because on the surface, people are usually going to give you the same types of answers. I don't have time for it. I'm too busy. I don't have the money for it. It seems silly. And then you keep digging and you realize there's so much more. Then you get to, oh my God, I have so much guilt over this. I think it's ridiculous for me to do this. This is so frivolous. And then you really get to amazing language. You get to really understand what people are struggling with, and then be able to turn around and actually meet them where they are and deliver real, relevant, helpful stuff that can help them take that next step. Having those phone calls can change the course of your business. It can change the course of a single program.
That's fantastic. Yes, I think all of you should take that to heart and talk to your people. I mean, and they want to talk to you. People love being listened to and love having their voice heard and their needs met. So it's a great practice to get in the habit of. And lastly, Rach, just let people know where they can find you and what you're up to now.
So you can find me, really my hub for all things are over at rachealcook.com, RachealCook.com. And there you can dive right into my Business Sweet Spot quiz, where you can learn how you can really play to your strengths as an entrepreneur. And when you play to your strengths as an entrepreneur, then you can simplify everything. You can uncomplicate your business and get even better results that allow you to start living more and working less, which is what I know so many of you want, that real freedom. So head over there, and you can also find me all over social media at Racheal Cook. On Facebook and Instagram is pretty much where I hang out most days.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Racheal, for being on the show, for sharing your story and all the wisdom that you've accumulated during this entrepreneurial journey that you've been on.
Thank you so much for having me, Cailen. It's always so much fun to catch up with you, and I'm just thrilled to see what you're bringing into the world these days.
Oh, thanks so much, girl. Take care.
Take care.
The Mindset Reset Challenge is back and starting on May 8th, and I want to personally invite you to join me for this soul-nurturing week that always delivers amazing breakthroughs for everyone who moves through it. Each day during this 5-day experience, you'll receive a short audio from me and a loving action step to help you reset your mindset and embrace self-love and growth. Here's what just a few participants had to say about this totally free 5-day experience. Nolene said, "It's a fabulous, uplifting, positive start to your day, week, and ultimately the rest of your life." Another Clarity Crew member said, "This challenge brought to the surface the inner wisdom that we can sometimes bury down." And Hannah said, "Mindset Reset is a week-long opportunity to dig deep, figure out what limitations you're creating for yourself, and immediately begin living a better life. Cailen helps you to recognize your innate potential, harness that power, and create the life, business, and mindset of your dreams." If that sounds good, together we are going to uncover your mindset blocks and work to remove them so that you too can move forward in life and business untethered by your limiting beliefs and ready to expand into your true and fullest potential. So if you want in on the Mindset Reset experience that has already helped hundreds and hundreds of women reset their mindsets for soulfully expansive success on their terms, head over to cailenascher.com/updates now and enter your name and email to be the first to know when it's time for our Mindset Reset.